Hi, Tri Builders. This is Tanya Rooney coming at you today solo, which is kind of fun. I thought I would wrap up the year kind of talking about some habit stuff because, yeah, I like it. So, if you're listening to this on December 31st, happy New Year's Eve. If you're listening to it after, happy whatever day it is. So today I kind of wanted to talk about habits and habits coming into the new year and why it's an ideal time to reset at the first of the year because it just, I guess it's just kind of how society is. I think a lot of people love to go into January thinking of all the new ways they're going to do things, and then it obviously fizzles out. I think there's some clever people out there that like to start this already in Q4 or in December. But if you aren't one of those overzealous people, I think it's okay. I'm here to tell you it's not that big of a deal. You're not behind. You're exactly where you're supposed to be, all that good stuff, because it's true. I am a habitual thinker of I am behind. I always feel behind, which is crazy because I don't think that's true. But in my head, apparently, I have come up with a version of me that is behind on everything. So I think the cool thing about habits and habit stacking is really it's a really great way to build consistency, and it's actually science backed. So what is habit stacking? It's using established neural pathways, like literally in your head, to create new patterns. And instead of starting from scratch, like you're just starting a brand new habit, whatever it is, you're actually stacking it onto something you already do. So you're keeping the momentum of something you already do. So it could be you brush your teeth every morning at 7 a.m. or whatever time you do. You get out of the shower before you leave the house, whatever, you brush your teeth. Well, you would stack a habit on this, like, before I brush my teeth or right after I brush my teeth, I'm going to drink 20 ounces of water. Or right when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to drink 8 ounces of water, the first thing that I do before I do anything. So you kind of connect it to something else. I think people do it with coffee too. Like every time they have, like, either they reward themselves with coffee. So maybe they go to the gym, they can't have a drink of coffee until they're done at the gym. And then same with the water thing, is they can't have a drink of coffee until there's 20 ounces of water in their system. There's a couple of different ways to do this. Um, but it just gets a little bit more advanced when you're stacking it onto even more things. So the reason that I'm talking about it today, though, is because, or why I have something to say about it, is because I'm kind of a crazy person when it comes to habits. I am January 1st, 2025, actually marks 6 years of me tracking my daily routine. I have done it for 2,191 days as of that. It is Monday, December 30th, 2024. So I'm on 2,190 days today, which is super crazy. I can't even, I thought it was only 3 or 4 years, but I actually did the math. I was like, holy crap. So however many years ago, I think that would be about 2019 is when I started. I started doing the Miracle Morning. I actually started in the summer of 2018, but I didn't do it every single day. I did it for little spots. There's this thing called the Miracle Morning. It's a man named Hal Elrod who wrote a book, and now he has all kinds of companion books, actually. You know, the Miracle Morning for the parent, the Miracle Morning for a real estate agent, Miracle Morning for, I don't know, corporate exec, whatever. There's probably a half a dozen of them. So he taught himself how to walk. Like, truly, he got into this accident where he was never going to walk again, and he just rewired his brain in the way he was doing things, and he defied all odds and did these really cool things. And then he realized he wanted to put his life into his own hands, kind of thing. So he came up with this methodology. It's called Safers. I talk about it on my Instagram a few times a year because I all of a sudden get to 2,000 days, or then I get to 1,500, whatever it has been. I try to celebrate these little things. When I hit 2,000 days, I actually went out and got like a really new fancy pen, and to use because I journal every day. So what Hal Elrod came up with is this thing called Savers. So it's scribing, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and silence. So it's meditating, journaling, all of that good stuff. I have done some bastardized version of this for 6 years now, which is so crazy. I think the biggest reaction to me telling people when I do this is they're like, holy shit, how on earth could you do that? I've never done anything that long, and I'm just like, that's actually not true. Like, so far, however old you are, you've woken up every single day, and the likelihood is you brush your teeth every day, or you go to the bathroom every day, or you eat food most days, or you drink water, whatever it may be. I think people don't give themselves enough credit for the stuff that they already do, but yeah. So January 1st is gonna mark this big, huge thing for me, and I feel like the Miracle Morning, what I do, like I said, I do a bastardized version of it. It's because it's just morphed over time. Like, I continue to do some kind of version of it. I might not visualize every single day, but I do a form of visualization, or I know that I have meditated every single day, all 6 years. It might only be a minute, and it might be 25 minutes, it might be 35 minutes. It doesn't matter. Like, I just kind of do the thing. And then this it's so interesting because this stuff happening in 2019 kind of led me down to a path that I really never expected. So in 2019, I did a Miracle Morning for a full year. 2020, I didn't. I mean, I still was doing the Miracle Morning. I was still doing things. It was just kind of a more of a hectic year. But then in 2021, in the summertime, I think it was just before Memorial Day, one of my friend's husband was jogging a mile every single day, or his goal was to jog a mile every day from Memorial Day to Labor Day for just for the summer. So I started doing that and realized, whoa, I'm gonna keep going. Like, I've already got this momentum. Like, why would I stop? So I didn't jog a mile every day for a year, but I turned it into a walking. And then I think around April of 2022, I had to have surgery on my feet. So I didn't make my 1 year, and I was so bummed. So in May, though, like, once I was rehabbed just enough that I could walk, I started again and I hit a full year. So I actually, 21 and 22, I did pretty much walked a mile every single day for those 2 years. And that was fun because I posted about it a lot. A lot of people saw that I was doing it. It was something people mentioned. People still mention it, actually. I don't do it every single day anymore, but I've got a couple of goals I'm going to talk about for 2025, like at the end of the podcast. So, yeah. But this kind of like started this really cool thing for me that I just wanted to start like gaining momentum on other things. So in 2023, I decided, like usually around my year mark, a lot of my years were starting in May, but now they start in January. But in 2023, I decided to do a thank you note every single day. So for 365 days, I sent a thank you note to somebody every single day. And sometimes I would send two or three, but mostly I just sent one. And I had rules around it. I wrote down, like, I had these huge Post-it notes that I wrote down every single day, like who I did. I tried to star it if I ever heard back from that person. I know some people never got them, but I took a picture of the inside and the outside every single day as well. So some of those people, I just texted to them. I recently talked to somebody or caught up with somebody. She's like, hey, I never got that. So I figured out when I sent it to her and went back into my camera roll and actually just sent her, I'm like, well, this is what it said. So yeah, you can't always rely on the post office, I guess. But it was like one of the coolest things ever. I just created a couple of random rules that were like, I couldn't send to the same person within 30 days or within the calendar month. So some people did get 3 or 4, but it was about like who I talked to that week, that day, whatever it was. And if I talked to people multiple times throughout the year and just was so excited about what they helped me out with, I would try to send them more thank you notes when I could. And then this came into last year. I decided I was going to do no alcohol for a year. And so 2024 was no alcohol for 365 days. And I did Duolingo for 365 days. We decided we went to Greece, so we wanted to kind of be able to speak Greek. So we were able to do that. And then once we were done, we were like, well, we're already this far in, so why wouldn't we just keep going? So we decided to switch over to Spanish. And so we've been doing Duolingo, like my husband has been too, for more than a year. And then it has been more than a year for alcohol too, which has been such an interesting thing because a lot of people like hear that and, oh, I could never. And I think that's such an interesting way to do life, is so often like discounting the kind of human being you are, like automatically out of the gate, that you could say, I could never do something, because I find it to be silly and an absolute lie. Because I know some people just react that way because they want to have some kind of conversation with you, but at the same time, it makes me feel like people just underestimate themselves constantly. And I think it's such a shame because I think we can do so many cool things, and we do hard things every single day. So what the hell is the difference if you have to say no 365 days to something? Like, that's not that big of a deal. So yeah, and then coming into 2025, I've been, I wrote something about this. I have an email actually that I send out every week that goes with the podcast, just kind of saying what's going on and stuff. Some weeks I write a lot, and some weeks I write a little. But last week I wrote quite a bit because I started talking about what I'm excited about in 2025, and just thinking about, like, I took a walk with Matt. And Matt's my husband, and we started talking about, how great it was at 2025. I didn't drink any alcohol, and there was probably only a handful of times that I really had FOMO of any kind, that I was like, oh man, because I'm a social drinker, or I was a social drinker. And I felt a little like, oh, I could totally have a drink today. But there was only a handful of times that it actually happened that I didn't care. This is fucking awesome. So me and him were taking a walk a couple of weeks ago and talking about 2025, and I had told him, I'm just like, I kind of want something harder for 2025, like to actually challenge myself. He's like, wait a minute, you just did like a whole entire year of something that is hard. A lot of people, have a hard time with things like this. So don't discount the fact that you became resilient all year with this kind of stuff. If you had a hard day, you didn't go home and drink. You, when you were celebrating people, you didn't go out and drink. You were completely engaged in whatever it was, and you were present for all of that. And I was like, yes, you're totally right. I didn't mean to discount what I did, but I just feel like it wasn't that hard. So it kind of seems like I should level up, which is a crazy thing to expect of yourself sometimes. So last week in my email, I had started talking about what I've been thinking about. I've been talking about, should I do, gluten-free for an entire year? Should I do sugar-free for an entire year? Talking about some goals about being outside and things like that. And it's so interesting because I'm literally looking at my calendar and like what kinds of traveling plans we have for the year and what kinds of events we are going to, just things like that, and how I can navigate those things. So I'm trying to be a little bit strategic on, what kinds of things are going to come up that are going to make me have excuses, that are going to make me potentially not do that thing. Because when I start something, especially like I choose one of these habits, I am not I love having streaks of things, of like, hey, I've done this for this long. And granted, I mean, seriously, I'm over 2,000 days into a miracle morning of some kind, and doing some cool things for my life. So when I think about this, like, I know it needs to be a challenge, but I also am like, well, there aren't going to be moments that, like, there's not a weak moment, because you just, for some reason, I make this decision and it's still like I'm not doing it. So I've been pretty serious about what I want to actually concentrate on in 2025. And I know that me and my husband both want to concentrate on health. So both of my goals for 2025 are health related. We still have business goals. Those are always a thing, but they're just, ones that are going to happen, whereas these health goals are like front and center. So 2025, I've decided that I'm going to go gluten-free for the whole entire year. We've got a couple of big trips planned. We're going to Ireland, we're going to Thailand, there's a couple of smaller trips that are just stateside. And I actually looked at, well, what kinds of things am I going to encounter in these other countries that I'm going to feel like these are really big, cool trips, and I don't want to miss out just because I made this commitment. But I made a commitment, so I'm not somebody that'll just push pause for a week. That's not a thing for me. So I'm kind of an all or nothing person. If you didn't know that about me, some people that really spend time with me, they know about this. So I'm pretty excited because I decided gluten-free because I think I can navigate it still in those other countries. Ireland might be a little bit hard, but I think Thailand's going to be just fine because a lot of things are rice-based instead of, wheat or gluten based like in America. So this should be interesting. And then the other thing that I decided I'm going to commit on is there's this project. It's actually it's about parents doing it for children, but I don't care. I'm going to do it anyways. And it's 1,000 hours outside. And this just means that it's about being more disconnected with some of that stuff in the house, like the TV, the phones, all of those things, and getting outside into nature. And the kinds of like the reason somebody came up with it was the benefits for their children, because their kids would just come home and sit on a computer and just, they're kind of angsty and they're angry and they're not getting up and moving and things like that. So they decided they were going to do 1,000 hours outside, and they kind of created some rules. They have a cool app. There's all kinds of stuff. Well, I saw a friend of mine, her and her family did it this year, and they made it. They spent like just about the entire month of July, I think, outside because they were at a national park. But I thought about this more and more, and I'm just like, I would really like to not be on my phone so much. I would really like to be checked out from the stuff, inside, because I spend a lot of time on the computer. I spend a lot of time by myself because of my entrepreneurial endeavors. So I started reading up on it in the last 2 weeks, and I've really been thinking about it. And I'm like, this is really cool. I'm going to figure this out because it is a version of a mile a day because we got to be outside. But and I live in like the frozen tundra, like Minnesota can get really, really cold. But I think, we know how to layer up here. I've always known how to do stuff like that. So this is now going to be a thing. So that one is going to be a challenge for me because it's an average of 3 hours a day outside. And I think we'll have to do more catch up on the weekends and stuff. And in the summertime, there's going to be a lot more. We're going to have some trips that we're going to be able to be outside a lot for, which is going to be cool. But I've been trying to figure out ways to go hiking more and to experience more cool things in outside Minnesota instead of just going places like flying to Colorado to be outside. That's so silly. I like being outside here too. So this is going to force it because I am literally stating this on a fucking podcast because this creates some accountability for me. So I'm really, really excited to be able to do something like this and talk about, 1,000 hours outside and actually, download the app and start tracking it, because I think it's going to change the way I do some things and it'll be some more natural activity. I don't always love working out. So this is going to be a version of, well, it's not really working out. It's really just going outside and having some fun, like going outside and reading instead of staying inside and reading on the couch or something. And then, having more meals outside, like those count too. So they've got like all these parameters. And the cool thing about stuff like this is you can set your own parameters. Like even the Miracle Morning, I know they say, to do it in the morning, you're supposed to do it before like 10 a.m. or something, or 7 a.m. A lot of people do. It's not a supposed to, but I opt to do it whenever. Like to me, it's just, not as long as it's finished, it counts. So the same thing with 1,000 hours outside. I'm just going to kind of figure out some parameters. I'm going to write down some rules for myself and my husband, because my husband he will inevitably have to help because he'll want to get outside too. And we just kind of will go do that stuff. So I'm really, really excited for these goals. And so that was a very long, drawn out way of me saying, this is why I have something to say about habit stacking is I do these things and create some momentum, and it just works really well for me. So if you're thinking about some cool things in 2025, like your new year, you could do some habits. Start small. Like those are the things this is something I've realized. I've helped people with accountability groups. I've done a lot of this kind of stuff. I think starting small is really smart. Not, like you can't give up alcohol, sugar, gluten, fun, anything, like all kinds of stuff. If you give it all up at once, the likelihood is you're going to fail because you just feel so much deprivation. It's hard to, start drinking a gallon of water every single day and do this and do that because you're just not used to it. So it's just a lot on your mind. So add things in as you can, even if you want to do, I know people that do a new goal every single month. So for 12 months, they'll have like a mini goal and then they'll decide on what things like they actually want to keep going with. So it's kind of cool because if you start maybe drinking water in January and then in February you start eating better or eating cleaner, is in like pick something like I'm not going to have dairy the whole entire month of February. And then in March you can say, okay, now I'm going to do 20 minutes a day, like on the treadmill or whatever it is. And then you decide, like, because if all of a sudden you get to June and you already have 6 new habits for the year, you'd be very surprised at the things that you can stack up pretty fast. And then I think another thing that you need to think about is staying consistent. Consistency is a huge deal. Like I don't know when I realized this about me, but I figured out that there's just a switch. I don't know where the hell the switch is. I'm not sure how to access it. Right now, it's January 1st is my switch. But I think figuring out ways that will keep you consistent is a really important thing, because in the first couple of weeks, honestly, those are usually the easy weeks, unless you're detoxing from shitty food. And then they're the hardest weeks because you're kind of a dragon of a person because you're detoxing off of sugar and some nasty things. but but thinking about how you can keep yourself accountable, like I'm stating it on this podcast because people are literally going to ask me about it now, which I love, because then it's like this random accountability that I never know when it's going to come up, so it's important to me. But I've got a friend who my friend Colleen, she texts her brother every single day. I don't know how that started, but it was about walking a mile a day or getting outside. And she's just like, nope, I just text him every day and say, got my walk in. That was it. That's the whole entire thing. He doesn't really, she just told him one day that she was going to start texting him. So I think that kind of stuff like works really well. Like I'm that person for a lot of people. If somebody tells me, like there's 3 people in January that were planning to quit their jobs, and they told me a couple months ago. They could have told me 2 years ago. I have no idea, because whenever they tell me, I put it on my calendar with any of the details, and now I'll text them. And I got an email from one of the guys like a week ago, and he's like, "Oh my god, I know you have the quit date on your calendar." So, and I do know that I have his quit date on the calendar, but it's really, really interesting to think like there are people that you can keep accountable by just saying things like that. So find the people in your life that keep you accountable, or just tell them, like, say, hey, best friend, I'm going to text you every single day and let you know when I'm done with my workout, okay? And they're going to notice when you don't text them. So I think finding out who's going to keep you accountable is really important. And then just use phone alarms. There's apps out there everywhere. There's Post-it notes, whatever it takes. If you ever need help with this accountability stuff, you're totally welcome to reach out to me. You can find me on Instagram. If somebody gives me a date of something, or just they need a little bit of help with something, I'm happy to help with either me sending somebody a text message or getting you set up with some people that can keep you accountable, because I think it's important, especially if you're trying some new things. And then, because I've been doing this for 6 years, last night I actually did a little bit of reflection, which I'm excited about. I try to do that when I'm at bigger marker points, like, at 2000 days, I did a reflection. It's just kind of thinking about, because people ask me like, well, what have you gotten out of it? Like, why would you do that for so long? And sometimes I don't know why I do things too long, but it seems to me that it works really well for me on just being accountable to something because of how flexible my life can be. So, 6 years of the miracle morning, I have 6 lessons. So, done is better than perfect. This is that whole, like, I don't care if I don't get it done till midnight. I just want to get it done. Like, I just check the box. And yes, sometimes it's just a checkbox, but sometimes it's like, no, I really needed that today because I needed to be able to sit in silence with my meditation and whatnot. The second thing is not being able to quiet your mind is a bullshit excuse. There's so many people that say that to me. Oh, I want to meditate, but I've never been able to. Well, I'm here to tell you that not every single day I have a quiet mind. Like, I am 6 years into this and my mind doesn't always quiet. It's okay. I think it's just like learning how to do those kinds of things. I think I'm calmer because of it, because when I get really, really hyped up about something, I have ways, like, since I've been meditating for so long, one of the tactics that I have when things just keep coming into my head, I picture that like if a person is on my mind because I need to reach out to them about something, or because I'm flustered with them, I think of them as a tiny little human and I set them on a shelf. That's literally a figurative shelf in my mind. And I might have to set them on that shelf 10 times during my meditation, but I set them aside. Just like, I will get to this later, set them aside, or set this thing aside. And if I'm meant to remember to do that thing, I'll also remember. But I think people just saying that, I could never do that. Well, if you've never practiced, you definitely can't do that. Like, you used to also not be able to walk, but now you can walk just fine. most likely. But thinking about like those things as excuses instead, I started out with 2 or 3 minutes a day, and now, I mean, sometimes I only do a couple of minutes, but I try to do 15 to 20 if I can, or I'll do a lesson with a meditation. So I'm thinking about whatever that lesson was. So stop making excuses. Like that one's a shitty one. There's a lot of things going on in your lives, but this is a really good treat for your own mind and for your own good, because you think about things, like you can really reflect on things now, once you know how to quiet your mind, even if it's just a little bit, but it takes practice. The third thing is, it can be as short or as long as you want. You can make up your own rules. Like, I have this daily habit, and I I keep saying like it's the miracle morning because that is where it's based out of, but I don't do like, I mean, I add things in. Right now I have Duolingo in there. I have a course called Duality that I'm working on, and then I like to do some manifesting stuff every single day, or I'm trying to work on it. So I track that kind of stuff. So just because I'm not doing some of, like, I might not be really great at affirmations or visualization for like 6 months, I am doing all this other stuff really good. And exercising looks different every single day for me as well, because I might be phoning it in for 4 months of just like, hey, I'm going to do some push-ups and some air squats. But if I get outside and do a walk, like that counts as well. So just thinking about like, you get to make up your own rules on all of this stuff. It's fantastic. Like, that's the cool part about life, but just kind of create some rules for yourself. Number 4 is, habits can be whatever you want to commit to. Like, committing for yourself is just, it's worth it. Like, the habits that I want to commit to are typically things that I need to work on. They can, like, nobody else is going to tell you what these need to be. Like, you are in charge of you. So, just doing something that commits to you is really, really important. Like, I like this stuff because I need the time, I need the mental capacity of meditating. I like to journal every single day, and I might journal about something awesome. I might just say, I had an okay day, or I had a shit day, and might say a couple of things about it, but that's it. Like, if I ever want to go back, I have 6 years of journaling. I can literally find out what I did. And it's not just, a photo journal at this point, like, because on my phone, I feel like everything is a photo journal of what I did and where I was that day. So number 5, I could never is a fucked statement. I hate it when people are discounting themselves. So quit discounting yourself and your abilities, or just own it. Like, stop commenting like that. There's so many people that will tell me, well, I could never do that. Like, I could never give up gluten. I could never give up bread. That's an absolute lie. You do things every day that are freaking hard. And why don't you just test yourself, like, commit to it? And it's okay if you don't want to. Instead of saying I could never, say, no, I don't really ever want to give up bread. That's fucking okay. Like, someone like me isn't going to judge that. I don't care what you eat. I don't care what you do with your time. If you're not hurting other people, that's fucking awesome. But really, I think you just using that kind of statement is really a fucking scapegoat. Like, it's really shitty. Like, stop saying I could never, because you could. You don't have to just have a conversation piece and say I could never. You could just say, like, I don't really ever want to do that. But if you do want to do it, then fucking try it. Like, if it lasts 2 weeks, cool. If it lasts 30 days, even cooler. But don't say I could never, because it's just, you're just discounting yourself, and it's really just doesn't look that good on you. And then my last lesson is, try whatever habits you want. And this is like, what works for one person doesn't have to work for you. Like, I know so many people who love getting up at 5 a.m. and they love getting their stuff done. I don't want to, and that's okay. Like, I like doing stuff at night. Like, I like having deep think at nighttime, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But just know, just because you love whoever that person is that you put on a pedestal right now, that's an amazing business person, that's a really great athlete, that's a really good mom, you have your version of that, and fucking be proud of it. You do not have to do what they do. You can try anything on, though. Like, there's a whole entire outfit we wear every single day. Meditating works really, really good for me. Journaling looks amazing for Tanya, but it doesn't have to look the same way for you. It could be, like, you just want to do a grateful list every single day for a year. Like, that's great. Make things work for you, and don't feel left behind, and don't feel weird that it doesn't work for you. Like, just because you don't want to take cold showers doesn't mean you have to take fucking cold showers. Like, don't worry about shit like that. So I'm gonna end up publishing like this list of 6 things because I feel like it was a really, really good way to think about the fact I've been doing this for 6 freaking years. So those are my lessons learned. It wasn't very quick because I'm just not always that quick. But this is just kind of a good message. At least I want to send you guys this message in the ether, just saying, if there's some habits you really want to try out, like try them out. Let me know how they go. Do you need some accountability? Let me know that too. I love stuff like this. I can't become very good at it. I wasn't good at it at one point, but now it's just like totally my jam. And some things I'm so good at habit stacking, and I'm so good at, like, oh my God, like there's no there's no buts about it. It's just like I'm just gonna do that thing every day. And then there's other things that I'm not that way. So I'm still human, which is freaking great. But if you think that, if you know anybody in your life that needs to hear something like this, send this to them, please, and tell them, like, hey, this is just like real stuff and it's not that big of a deal. It doesn't have to be really freaking hard. But I would love more people to get this message that habit stacking is awesome. You can make time for yourself. I think that's probably the biggest thing I want people to know is you are worth the time that you spend on yourself, and it's just going to benefit people around you. So do some cool things in 2025. Let me know what they are. Please send me messages. I freaking love stuff like that. I love getting to hear from people and see what they're working on. And it's so amazing because, you hear from somebody, 6 months ago, this is what they were working on. And now 6 months later, are they still working on that thing? Were they successful with that thing? All that stuff. So I'm super interested in that. So yeah. I hope you have like the best ever week. 2025 is gonna be fucking awesome. 2024 is over. Close that chapter. We're not living super far into the future. We're not living in the past. We don't care about that shit anymore. Just go forward and do cool things now. Be in the present, like all the good stuff. And yeah, hope you have an awesome fucking day. And that's it. Bye, Tribe Builders. Happy 2025.